To order, it's 6 o'clock. Do we have any
Some minutes, yeah.
minutes from the,
Yep.
Who's gonna chair?
Oh, we got it.
who do you want?
Well, is Ray, are you gonna chair this meeting?
Well, it's difficult to chair from here, so someone there should probably be doing it because you can see everything.
All right, I'll make a motion then that we, first of all, seat alternate John Ham on the board for this evening's meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Abstention? Unanimous. Mark, you and Ray were voting on the affirmative on that?
Yes, I voted in the affirmative.
All right,
I couldn't see Ray's vote.
okay. I'll now make a motion that we appoint John as the chairman for the evening.
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
Opposed?
Aye.
Unanimous. Abstention?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that that's all done.
That's procedure.
Okay, minutes.
Yeah,
Reclamation
it's a
of
little
minutes.
confusing because, I'm just gonna explain this a minute. In order, they have to have 3 people physically here to have a quorum. And Ray is the chair, but Ray is by Zoom, so, it's just a way of trying to make things work better.
Any corrections, distractions, additions?
could I raise a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ray. Put Ray on the floor.
With the 3 of you there, 4 of you there, excuse me, and 2 of us by video, we've got 1 extra person. So we should select who is voting.
I vote that Ray vote. Oppose it.
All those in favor of Ray being the voting member?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Thank you, Mr. Herman, for clarifying that. Any other points of order I've missed? All right, so then you got corrections, abstractions
Thank you, Mark.
to the minutes.
you're welcome, Ray.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as written
Of June 1st,
of June 1st.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Do you have any other minutes or just that
Well,
one?
did you just notice my thing in red? That was an ordinance from Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, yeah.
Anyway, I was very confused
Yeah.
when he was talking about it.
I'd like to ask Carol why we resented the fire chief,
Why we did
Or
what?
since
why we
it's-
resented him instead of staff resent,
What page are you?
front page.
What line?
Should say staff present.
I'll fix
See
it.
where it says that?
Oh, resent, staff resent. Yeah.
Staff resent.
Well, these.
Well, we already approved it. That's
Yeah,
the-
Yeah, already
Say it,
approved.
all right.
So we have to resent it now.
We have to resent the chief.
Okay.
Hi, Carol. So David is going to represent.
Okay, so, David is here,
Yeah.
representing his parents. His Parents are the applicants, so they submitted 2 applications. When I helped them get their stuff together, I didn't realize that they had to have 2. I wasn't thinking along those lines, but I realized that they needed to have 2 separate applications. So you have 2 separate applications in front of you. One is for the equitable waiver and one is for the variance. So. They're posted properly, but. says the application for a variance, and it had some yellow highlighting on it, and it has by writing.
Yep.
What is the variance for? And this would have been resubmitted with, with additions to it. And then the application for the waiver is in here further. That's typewritten.
I walked by there today. The house in this picture is now gray, correct? I
I
just
don't
want to
have
make
that picture, but yeah.
sure. Okay, yep, I just wanted to make sure it was over.
Yes. Um,
I would suggest that we perhaps do the equitable waiver of dimensional regulations first,
I
and
second
then,
that.
and then the variance.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna look at the equitable waiver of dimensional
Requirements, yeah.
Okay, so do you want me to, you want to present this, or do you want me to explain what happened here?
That's up to you.
Well, I'll start and then you can.
Sure.
Okay, so, so this is a house that was built in 1965. And at the time, the lots, there were 2 lots combined. And one of the lots, and then the lot that's south of that, that the Weeks own 3 lots. They're right in a row. The house that we're talking about, the subject lot is in the middle. The house is very close to the boundary line. And the question arises, how did that happen? Okay, the house was built before zoning. Zoning was not adopted till 1986. So the house was built in 1965 when there were 2 lots combined, but the house was built right on the boundary line with the lot that's south of that. And the house that was south of that was a trailer, and it was owned by, I forget the name of those people.
Donahue,
James and Mary.
somebody before
Well,
Donahue.
before
Donahue had
the
it.
Donahue, it was owned by
That's correct,
somebody else.
Yeah.
And then in 1980, there was a subdivision, and the subdivision kept the house that's the subject lot was still in the same place. There was nothing they could do because the house was already built right on the boundary line, south boundary line. But anyway, so both the subdivision that created the lot and the building of the house took place before zoning. So there was no setbacks, there was nothing. So it was a conforming building at the time. So there's not anything that makes sense that can be done. It's a residential use in that particular neighborhood, and all the other uses in that neighborhood are residential. So and right now, the lot that's south that used to have the mobile home on it has nothing on it. And the Weekses own that lot. So there's not a neighbor that they're going to be bothering with the house as it stands now. So we thought it would make sense to get, and because it's so long ago, an equitable waiver of dimensional requirements. And if you look at the statute, there are different ways to get that. And we included all of the ways to get that in the application, or they included all the ways to get that in the application. So whether you use the first option or the second option, the third or the fourth, those are, my recommendation is that all of those each one of those is a good reason to grant the equitable waiver of dimensional requirements.
Carol, number 2 there, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
The town has not commenced or taken any enforcement action, including written notice to have this house
Oh, move.
moved. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know which one.
Yeah, I kept answering the phone and
It's all right.
getting
Moved.
interrupted, so that's what happens.
We just vote on this, Carol, do we have to go down through the sheet? Pretty much you're just okaying the location of the house, correct?
Yeah, you can. As far as I know, yes. Do you have any contrary thoughts there, Ray or Mark?
No, under this particular requirement for the waiver of dimensional requirements, you don't have to prove any hardship or anything. Just in fact, good faith at the time that things were done, and then the ordinance comes along and creates the hardship that we will be talking about later. But there's nothing intentional that impacts this particular request. And so I don't, and I think the application sets forth the facts in pretty good shape.
I'll make a motion then, Mr. Chairman, to grant the equitable waiver of dimensional requirements for the Weeks channel.
Could we ask the applicant if he wants to add anything?
Yeah, do you want to add anything?
I think you covered it pretty well, Carol. It is very strange where the house is, but like you said, it was built before the zoning, so and with a full basement on it, it would be pretty tough to move it. So it's not really.
I just have one question. All 3 lots were purchased by you in 2020, your parents in 2021.
Yes.
So is there any interest in combining that lot? Or are they gonna keep that lot separate to do something else with it?
Yeah, I believe they're gonna keep that.
I think they're gonna keep that, and they want to develop that lot. They want to put a house on that other lot.
Because that lot had a mobile home on it, which has water and sewer taps to that. It's a
Yeah.
separate lot, so I'm sure they want to keep
Okay.
that as a.
So that's, I mean, other, if they didn't want to develop that
Yeah,
lot, they could
make
make
it
it
one
one
lot.
lot and it would be
Right,
within the setback.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I can sit, I mean, that's,
Yeah, Alice for the tank store owned the 2, and then Mike Donahue owned the 3rd one,
Yeah,
and somehow ended up with it, but yes.
I think they want to keep them separate for now because they don't know what they're gonna do moving forward as far as the 3. And I think they wanted to develop that lot, put a small house on it.
yeah, and it,
It's funny because on one of the maps, it notes that there was a boundary line agreement done in 11 of 79. So that was prior to the subdivision of 80, because they knew the house was in the wrong place then. I mean, it's just one of those things. So they moved the line to get the house on the lot.
Yeah, it must have been the
And
line
it
was straight.
was still pre-zoning, so there was no setback.
That would have been
So
the time to move it,
That's right.
make it legit, make it.
Well,
legal at the time, right at the
yeah.
time.
There was no zoning then,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I actually have no problems with this, and I would second the motion that we grant the equitable waiver dimensions on the existing structure
Mhm.
that's there now.
All those in favor of granting the waiver of dimensional requirements, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. Affirmative. We'll move on to what's the next one?
Yeah.
Now the deck.
You have this one, John, this map is a pretty good, that's.
No, I didn't see that. I might have it
a real good
Yeah, there's
map.
a big,
Yeah,
there's a
you can
big.
Oh,
map.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
there's a huge
Okay, I see. I
map
didn't
in
open
the
that
back.
back.
Yeah, I didn't even open the picture.
Over here
I
being
like
jealous
this
of
one.
Delaware.
Yeah, for those of us who have bad eyesight now at our age.
So the deck will come within, how far, a foot, or touch it? It'll touch the line, huh?
It says.
Yeah, this map.
That one little,
Huh?
that one
Yeah.
little point that it goes in.
Yeah, how far is it away from the line? Yeah, like I said, the line juts, it's gonna jut to
Yes.
it.
So,
Can you make the deck smaller to make it conform?
I think if it were to conform, it would be like
Yeah, it'd be way over there.
7 feet
Yeah,
wide.
yeah. Just
Yeah,
asking,
Yeah,
so we cover the bases.
yeah, I don't think that's.
And it's not gonna be enclosed, no roof, no enclosure.
You know, as the kind of neighborhood looks right now, the houses are kind of laid out with the decks set back behind the house. You know,
Mhm.
like
My-
that.
One thing, my only concern, if you could knock 2 feet off the deck. Because if this lot ever gets sold, your deck is gonna be on their property line.
Is
You
it
know what I'm
right
saying?
on as the map shows?
Yeah, so you're saying if we.
If
we
you
just-
take like, a
Like a-
foot and a half off that
yeah.
end of the deck, make it 23 feet.
I mean,
I just don't,
if
I
that's-
just
I think
don't
that might
see.
be a problem, because if, right? If a fence has to come up or something, is that?
Well,
what
just
it-
going forward, if they sell it, they're leaving this lot as a separate
Yeah,
lot.
it'll end up, yeah,
It-
we assume it'll end
It
up in
should,
a house. huh?
the deck should be on their lot, on the other lot. It shouldn't be touching, in my opinion.
Is-
Well, I would agree with that. And the request is not to put the deck on the abutting lot, even, by a few feet or something. It's to build it within the setback on this lot. And we should be sure that it does that.
Correct. I agree with you, Ray, and I also believe that because the residual lot left is still a freestanding lot, and not a big lot. And if we were to just sell that to a third party, I mean, and there was ever to get to be, put up the fence thing, that the fence post would be touching the deck almost by the corner here. And I know the house is already in the setback, but I wonder if that really means that we can grant that they further
Building.
building something that's in the setback. I mean, we're here to prevent these things from happening, in my opinion.
Right.
And here, we just righted the wrong that the house was, and that's very understanding how that happens. I know, I've been here a long time, but to come at us now and say, okay, now we want to add a deck to it, I say, boy, I think that's a tough one. And I don't even know if, and I'll ask you for your opinion on that. I want them to have a deck, but I think it has to be, have a lot more distance around it than what there is now. Okay.
So, the issues that I have with that is, the way the house was built, there was a door back there, like a large sliding door. And so when they renovated the house, they replaced that door with another one. And so the way the house is built, the entryway is over here on the right. And so, if you're looking at the house on the part it's not in the setback is actually the alcove door to the basement. So you can't really put the deck there kind of wrapping around. In this front part over here is kind of like right next to where you park. So that would be kind of weird. And I believe there's a building, there's the living room area is actually at the rear of the house.
Mhm.
So that doesn't leave me with a lot of options for where to put a deck.
What's on the back of the house right now? There's no deck whatsoever on the back of the house.
Now,
So the door that's there right now on the back side of the house goes out to just walk down a stair onto the lawn,
I think there's a small landing there.
small landing,
Yeah.
because it's not showing it here. I mean, what's the box that's on the back of the house? Is that what you're talking about?
That's
What do
the-
you call it, dog house that goes down to
Yeah.
the basement? Okay, that's what that is. And so this proposed deck is gonna either wrap around that, or you're gonna take that out.
Or it's underneath. Is it like a bulkhead? David?
Yeah. Yep. It's like a bulkhead. It was a doghouse before, but that was pretty ugly.
Yeah.
Is it still gonna be, you're still gonna be able to go under the deck to get downstairs?
Yes.
Have to lift up the
Like a
deck.
hatch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
something.
my only concern is that
We're letting, yeah.
I have no problem with the deck. I have a problem with building another thing right on the property line.
Yeah.
Right, that's,
If you move it over 2 feet, I'd be fine with it, but don't do it again. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? It's just gonna lead to,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about 1.5 foot. That's pretty
exactly.
Easy.
Well, yeah, why go right up to the
What's your
property line?
thoughts,
You,
Miles,
they,
on
well,
the
all-
neighbor.
I'd like to
they
hear
want a fence.
Ray's thoughts.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear
Ray,
Ray's.
do you have a thought on allowing to build this half of the deck in the already pre-existing setback?
Well, I would think most of the deck is going to be in the setback because of the,
Yeah.
and I don't have any difficulty, given the circumstances, the lot sizes and layout. I don't have any difficulty with that result, but I do agree with the discussion of the board that there should be a setback along the property line so that the owner of this property can get to, where's my north, south, the south, I guess that would be the south side
Yeah.
of this deck, and be able to maintain it, paint, whatever you have to do. So, as Delia said, couple feet, maybe, I don't know, 3 feet from the property line is, I would say, a reasonable and appropriate condition in order to, number one, protect the work on the property and then protect the abutting property. I did have a question on the, right in the back there, there's a setback of 1.75 feet. Rather odd situation, but it is what it is. And if we are talking about a setback, and whatever it might be, let's say, just say 3 feet from now, what line would it be measured from? And I would suggest that it would be the westerly portion of that line versus the easterly portion of that line. Did you follow what I was saying there?
I do,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that, you know, let's say I'm not saying that this was what it should be, but let's just say we end up granting a 3-foot setback. It should be from the westerly boundary, not the easterly boundary.
The one that juts in.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
there's the rebar and then there's the other circle.
Yep.
From the other circle.
What if he cut the corner off the deck?
Oh, that would work. Just to meet that 3 foot, you know.
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah,
Yeah, that would
redesign.
that would be fine.
There's plenty of solutions
Yeah.
to solve that issue.
That could be remedied by adjusting the line so that it's not necessarily straight, but that it doesn't have the jog.
That doesn't
Right,
jut.
so it goes off at an angle like a 45 or something like that.
Yeah, that would make more sense probably anyway as
Yeah.
well.
It would. And I don't think it would impact the view. You could do.
It's not
none.
really gonna
And
impact it.
you can do the same on the other end, so, it matches both ends, take a 45 up. Again, I'm not telling you how to build it, but again, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think we've got a non-conforming use as it's existed down there since 1965. Like you folks, I've taken a walk down there. In fact, I happen to play golf with the next door neighbor today, Mr. Higgins, and he was told, he wrote a letter today, wrote us an email or a note or a call saying that he was in favor of it. And, he's one of the abutters right across the street. They built a very nice home on the corner there. I think what the weeks have done to the property there, there's only been an improvement. And, it looks very nice, and I don't think this is going to impact the fact too that it's come to the right way to do it rather than just do it and say, I'm sorry, I didn't know. They're following the right procedures to get it done. And the next person, if they decide to sell that lot coming along, is going to know what they get. I mean, it's all dimensional. Here it is, it's recorded, et cetera, et cetera. So. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ray? Mr. Devine?
another comment, and that is the house itself relative to the line that we're talking about is literally right on the line. That being the case, I'd like to put two thoughts on the table. Number one, at a minimum, we should require that the owner of this subject lot reserve an easement along that property line if it's ever sold, so that they can maintain that side of their property. If they have to get in there and paint the house or change a window or whatever, any maintenance, they would have an easement. That would not affect the setback to the other property, but by having an easement, they can get in there. I've actually done that on a number of projects, and it works out just fine. It doesn't hamper the abutting lot to the south. So on that southerly property line, we could consider that. The other thing we could consider, but it might be a little excessive, would be that they actually move the line. I don't know that that's necessary, but I think an easement should be a condition of any approval. And it's an easement benefiting this site, this property to the north.
And it's easy to do because you're giving it, the party's giving it from one person to themselves again on the other side.
It's easier now than later.
Yeah, and all it is a maintenance agreement.
It's absolutely painless.
Yeah, painless, exactly, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, Ray. Thank you for that suggestion.
The application step by step.
Should we discuss, before we go through the approval of the application process, should we discuss the condition that would have to be, or we cover that in the application
Covered at the end, I
process?
think.
He submitted this, and if we're gonna approve something different, I don't know where you alter that.
We would just get a condition at the end, right? It'd be
Okay, oh,
condition of the easement,
Subject to-
the maintenance
subject to
easement if we want to.
X, Y, Z.
And the deck has to be no more,
okay.
no
understand.
closer than 2 feet,
2
whatever.
feet,
whatever.
yeah, it's almost 2 feet on from the other line,
Yeah.
and what's left
I just see
over.
down the road,
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta put up a fence and the neighbors get, you don't.
You gotta do it around it. Right.
You're right, the right thing to do would be move the line, but that doesn't you know.
Right, but
We
like I
don't
said, if
have
he
to
does
do
give
that.
himself later on an
Yeah.
easement to maintain.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if he does ever sell that lot to a third party, at least he can go around there and I can go
Clean it,
work on
clean
my
it.
property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe, I guess that's, we can make it a condition
Condition.
of either or. Let the homeowner decide, does he wanna go move the boundary line? I mean, he owns the other lot, so
Right, he
maybe he
can
can
do
give
that.
him 5 feet if he wants to.
Right,
And he
right.
wouldn't have to cut maybe the deck there. I mean, but I'd leave that decision to obviously you.
Yeah.
Your family, you own the lots, and it's like Miles has said, now than later is easier because you own that lot. You try to do it later on. I mean, let's say you get some cantankerous neighbor that doesn't
Won't
want
do
to
it.
do anything, and they want to put that fence right on their property line.
Yeah.
You don't,
It has to be a foot,
yeah,
foot from.
Yeah.
Where here, it couldn't be a foot back on his,
Yeah.
except for the back of the house down.
so,
The neighbor could go a foot off
Yeah.
usually.
You wouldn't be able to repaint the house.
That
Right.
argument, yeah, that argument, who's gonna pay to build fence, right?
Well, if they ever wanted to sell that lot, they could come in and adjust the property line before selling it and keep more of it
Yeah.
on the other side,
It'd come
you know,
to-
I mean,
How hard it is to adjust property lines.
It's not,
No.
well.
That's
you have to
easy
have a
one
survey,
there.
So
I think they've
there's
already.
the cost of
Yeah,
the
I
survey
think
with
they've
the line,
in fact, if they own it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
go to the planning board, so you do there's an application, you submit.
I guess, yeah, that's kind of up to the property owner. Does he
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
an easement or does he want to move the line? 'Cause
But I
you do-
think we should make a condition that he do
of
one or the other.
Yeah,
Right.
just for future. It's
Absolutely.
not
That's
for
right.
you and you, it's for.
Yeah.
For the next
We've
guy
been there.
down the
We've all
road.
been there.
No,
right?
absolutely, that makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
I've been there.
for
Okay.
sure, regardless of that,
Yeah.
they should have an
Yeah.
easement
Yeah.
because they own both of them, so
Right.
that makes definitely a good idea.
Yes, right.
I have no difficulty with what was just discussed, but I would point out that the easement should definitely be there to benefit this
Yeah, there's a lot.
property, because that can be granted without a variance. That condition can be met without a variance, but if we were to require an adjustment in the actual property line,
Yeah.
then they might need another variance.
Okay.
I don't think we're benefiting ourselves
No.
or, the town or them or anything else to require a variance. We
And
could
they
make it,
that down the line.
but the lot line adjustment, the easement is,
All we're concerned about is the easement at this point.
Good.
Okay, so, Carol,
So
do
do
you
you
want
want it to say either or you just want to say the easement?
I think we should talk about a definite easement,
Yeah,
correct, Ray? Definite easement and.
We
Less
also
and
don't want
less.
it on the property.
definite easement as a condition, and the rest of it, as long as they can get in there to do their work, and that easement, by the way, goes the length of the building,
Yeah.
all the way out to Boyle Street, so that they can get to that side of the building.
And then if they do a lot line adjustment later, the easement would just not be needed.
not be needed, it would probably not be needed.
So at this point, I think we concentrate on the easement, because that's all.
Right, because we don't think he's ever, who knows if
Who
he'll
knows?
ever
We
do
don't know.
that,
We
right?
don't know.
So
Okay.
what about the deck? What about
The deck
part?
needs to be,
Right,
at
'cause
least
you were
2
talking
feet
about
off
a
the
foot and a
property
half,
line.
You were talking about 2, he was talking about 3, what are you talking about? I mean.
I think a foot and a
I'll agree
half
with
is
Devin.
too small.
yeah.
I think 2 feet is fair.
What I was looking at, just so you
Still
know,
needs-
the width of the deck is proposed to be 24 feet wide.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a builder. No one wants to build 23 feet.
Okay, yeah.
22, maybe.
Yeah, 24 is a magic number, right?
24 is a magic number for wood,
Yeah.
But 24 doesn't work here.
Yeah.
And if you were gonna bring them back 2 feet, it would be 22.
Yeah.
Or I was thinking that, but that wouldn't allow him to do that 45.
Yeah.
So if he wants to come up, but somehow he's gotta maintain a minimum.
Well, he still needs room to step on his property and maintain the deck, go back to
You
the
know,
easement.
I mean,
Anyway, that's, as long as it's no more, it's within 2 feet, I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
And you can
Yeah.
So you can angle it, you can.
Yeah, well,
you
all right,
can-
so that'll be a
2
condition.
feet
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
closest property
Property
pin
line. Yeah.
would be the way to put it,
Yeah.
because that is the closest property pin to the deck.
It
Makes
is.
sense.
Exactly.
you know?
Okay.
Okay.
So for each.
So granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because.
Do we have, Carol, what the petitioner filled out? on
Yep.
those?
Yeah,
Yeah, because I think we can
It's
go with
one
his,
that has
I'll read it. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah.
read it, please.
Granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because the variance doesn't alter the essential character of the neighborhood. It also doesn't threaten the health, safety, or general welfare of the public. Anybody else?
I agree with that.
I'm fine with that.
All those in favor that the variance, I'm gonna make a motion, right? We make a motion?
Would not.
Okay, I make a motion that it would not be contrary to public interest because.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained.
Let me say, do we
Hey,
want,
sorry.
in this condition, we should add the easement
Okay,
requirement?
can we add that?
In number 2, you mean?
Number 1 or number 2?
I think we're in number 1, right?
We're
We
number
are.
1 right now, Ray, yeah,
Oh,
so
right
that's
now,
where you
we're
want,
just polling.
Right.
we're just polling the
polling
questions and then at the end.
different
Ray will add it.
criteria.
Yeah, we
In
haven't.
the end, you'll make a vote to grant or
grant or
not
not,
to grant. And if you grant, is it
conditions.
with conditions or not conditions, and
Right.
then what are the conditions?
So that one passed.
That one
Number
passed.
2.
Granting the variance would or would not observe the spirit of the ordinance because.
It doesn't create congestion or threaten wetlands. It will not create overcrowding. I agree with that. Cool.
So we're
I
gonna,
agree.
you wanna make a motion, Miles, that it would or would
Well,
not?
just.
We don't have to
just
make a
poll.
motion. We just
Oh,
poll.
we just
Don't-
poll,
no,
okay.
just poll.
All those in
agree.
favor that the variance would or would not, what are we voting that? That would,
Would,
It's keeping with the spirit.
keeping with the spirit of the ordinance, I'll say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Number 3, granting the variance would or would not do substantial justice because. So we're gonna say,
The proposed development is consistent with the area's present use.
so granting the variance would do substantial justice because it would let him build a deck on the back of his house. All those in favor of that statement, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. Granting the variance would not diminish the values of the surrounding properties for the following reasons. We assume that we're gonna be not diminishing the values, right?
It says the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished. Does not block view of water, does not block view of sunset, which doesn't decrease any property values. It doesn't do any harm.
It
to
doesn't
the
do any
site.
harm or reduce the property value.
And one other reason why it would not diminish other properties in terms of value is the applicant owns the,
Awful lot.
About
Yeah. It's not blocking access. or anything. So all those in favor that the variance would not diminish the values of the surrounding property, say aye.
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 Opposed,
Aye.
abstained. And then I guess unnecessary hardship, right? What is it?
It says, I will not be able to use my property to its full potential without the deck. I assume all my neighbors have decks and I would always have to watch them enjoy their deck and be reminded of my hardship.
Can't have that.
So, yeah, great.
Boyle Street.
I have a comment, but we can't.
So I agree with that.
All
I
those
agree
in
there's no
favor,
hardship.
agree with that, it is a hardship. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain, opposed, abstain. And that's it, right? Do we have to continue?
Now, we
and the proposed use is a reasonable one.
Yeah. Reasonable because it's,
It says adding a deck doesn't interfere with rear setback and only follows the current layout of the house. It will match neighbors' houses with decks and raise property value.
Right. So polling the board, does everybody agree?
does everybody
Agree.
agree? Aye.
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain.
Okay, and we
Okay.
don't have to do B because we've already done
Yep.
A, we've already agreed.
Then we just need to make a condition of the variance.
Okay,
Of
so
the
then you could
approval.
vote
Make the vote.
on
You
whether
know,
to grant the
okay.
variance.
Okay.
Looking back, I'm mulling over number 5 there, only the special conditions of this property. I mean, something in there should have said that the property is already in the non-conforming
Right.
usage in the setback, was built in the setback. So that, you know, people don't think we're allowing another, you know,
Right.
in the setback without justification.
Mhm.
Does that make sense, Mark?
I agree. No, that's.
Add the wording.
We're not-
Because it's an
Right.
unconforming
Yeah.
lot.
More.
It's
It's
an unusual
non-conforming.
lot.
So
We could say that, Jack, and it's probably appropriate, but we wouldn't want to limit the physical issues to just that. Because all of the physical conditions render this as a reasonable variance, not just the setback issue.
right, no, I agree, right.
Yeah, there's a number of things. So we might say that plus the other conditions of the property make it a reasonable variance. And I think the board is right. You do want to distinguish it from just somebody else coming in with all sorts of setback and wanting to build on the property line, you know?
Right.
So,
So we vote to accept, right?
Yeah,
Make a
now
motion
you
to
would
vote to
vote whether
accept
to
the
grant or not
Grant.
to grant. So, I don't know, somebody can make a motion.
Jack, you want to make a motion? to
Sure, I'll
grant
make
the
a
variance?
motion that we grant the request for the variance at the subject property
With
With the
conditions.
With the
with the
condition.
conditions that an easement be granted for access along the westerly side.
And
And
Yeah,
The
the
southerly.
southerly side.
southerly side,
and that the deck is built with.
I think the wording would be the easement would be reserved by them.
They would reserve, yes, because they're keeping the property.
okay, and that the deck be no closer than 2 feet to the existing boundary line.
Yeah, the proposed deck be no more than 2 feet to the closest property pin.
Okay,
Yes, correct.
yep,
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
all right.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Could I make one more comment?
Yes, sir.
I love the title of the map. Lands of.
Lands.
That is great.
Thank you, everybody.
And I'm serious about that. Lands of.
Where's that, Ray?
On the map.
Oh, on the map.
It's the title of the map.
Cool. Any other questions, any comments? Any other business, Carol? Any questions from the applicant?
No, I think that all makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Probably a good idea for the easement regardless of any of this.
We've all been there. We'll come up at
Yeah.
some point.
Yeah, so thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
It's not a huge deal to do that. Boundary
You
line
all set?
adjustment,
You still
so
recording?
decided-
Right.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Mr.
I'll
Herman.
I'll mention it to
Do you have
them.
Susan.
anything else coming up in front of us?
Do you have anything else tonight, Joe? Carol?
Well,
Tonight?
No. I'm still, I got the minutes just a few days ago. I'm almost done with the notice of decision, so I'll call you. So should I have John sign? I'll have you review it and then I'll have John sign it because he was acting chair. you there, Ray?
I don't think you-
Ray, you there?
I'm here. I'm sorry. Carol, I could not quite hear you.
Okay, so I got the minute, I had to wait for the minutes so that I could work on the notice of decision for the last hearing. I'm almost done. I'm gonna have you review it, but then I should have John sign it since he was acting chair for the hearing. Oh,
Um,
you weren't there for that last one.
No.
Never
No,
mind,
He wasn't even there. Right.
never mind, Ray.
I think the board has to accept the the-
I'll write it.
Are we gonna go over those changes to the?
Rules of procedure.
Yes.
I don't
Because we
know.
keep putting that off.
I know, let's put it off.
Okay. All right.
Put it off indefinitely?
Do we have any other applications coming at us in the pipeline that you know of?
I suspect there are.
Okay, okay, you can smell them coming, okay,
Yeah,
Alright.
they're,
okay. Okay, just
Yeah.
curious, that's all.
I mean, people are talking to me about so many things, you have no idea.
Yeah.
But like with the planning board, I think that we're gonna have another hearing and then it doesn't come in yet.
Mhm.
So, anyway, there are other people talking about variances, so we will be having more, but I don't have anything ready yet. And there's a lag time because I gotta do the notice to the
Oh, right,
paper and
no.
letters and all that, so. But what I do is I let you know as soon as I get one in, I let you know, because it is a quick turnaround time compared to the planning board.
Mhm.
But I often, when I send you that notice, that's all I have ready. I don't have the applications and everything else ready to send you.
But it's officially in the pipeline when you tell us it's coming, and that's good news, because I get those, and I said, okay, we got something coming,
You know, we
Thank
gotta-
you.
Great job, Carol.
Thank you,
As
Mr. Weeks.
usual.
Thank you.
okay,
End the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.